Dad. Welcome back, everybody. It seems like I haven't seen these names in such a long time. Good to see everybody. Let's get pumped up for our Friday night special. I'm not going to go through the whole Ric Flair scenario with the too sweet to be sour, the man of the hour, high styling, always profiling, limousine riding, jet flying, man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. I bring you what you all came for, Mr. Jimmy Dimodica. Jimmy, what's happening, my brother from another mother? I only do this for you.
You're my brother also, and you're so smooth with that. It's so eloquent the way you bring it out.
You know,
It's very moving. Thank you,
thank
Craig.
you.
Thank you.
Ric Flair taught me a lot. Ric Flair taught me a lot. You
Yeah,
know,
but you remember I was telling you about that song "Little Pal." When you hear the whole thing, it's
I
a
love it.
sad.
I listened to it. I'd be lying, and we're getting comments on it already. Dana, I hope you That's right, my man. 50 grand. I left that out. I'm getting reminded of stuff. Nick, let me, Jimmy, just real quick. Let's run through the chat. Nick, Cinnamon, love you. Dana, great to see you. Timmy Irish, what's up, my brother? John Farinacci, welcome back, my brother. You are now officially part of the family. It's great to see you. Um, Davey T, you know it. Matty Boy, Stevie, great to see you. Baywatcher. I hope everybody's got Sally Boy. What's happening? Benny said he'll be in. And we're just going to rock and roll. We're going to rock and roll. Nick, this one's for you. I'll explain this to Jimmy on the phone. Green eggs and ham. I said I am. Is that a cat or a mouse in the house? I'll keep coming up with more from Dr. Seuss as we go. But maybe next time I'll come up with some Scooby Doo for you. All right, my brother? With that being said, Barbara, how are you? And for anybody watching in the weeds, you're welcome to jump in, join the chat, become a member of our community and friends family group, really is what we're becoming here. Um, and we're just a close knit group. And no matter how big this thing gets, and maybe someday it will be big, we've always said from day one, whether we're talking to one or 10,000, it stays the same. We're one. One doesn't work without the other, right? So let me bring it to
That's
the
right.
man. How are you, my brother Jim? Everything good?
Good, Craig. Good. How's Catherine doing?
She's well, thank you.
All right.
She's
Antonio's doing fine.
Everybody's well, my brother.
Good.
Everybody's good.
Good.
Antonio, he's getting a little taste of. Well, he's a man. He's always worked, but he's been putting in a lot of hours, so hasn't had as much time to jump on and help out with some things with the football stuff and be around, with the
Yeah.
kids, and we've all been there. So you know, part
Yeah.
of
Been
paying the
there,
price.
done that. Right.
Yeah, been there, done that. So we move on. But tonight's a special night because we give we give our chat group and the people that are always here that give their time and want to spend time with you and me and together with themselves, with each other, and they chat and talk amongst themselves. But tonight they get a chance to real ask any questions, ask what's on their mind. If there's something they'd like to ask you, they get an opportunity to do that. So before Jimmy gets to sneak in a little something, maybe a little event or memory, or some like to say story. But to me, story sounds like it's made up. So there are no stories from this man. These are only events or memories that he recalls of a certain time in his
Sure.
life.
Yes,
Right. So
exactly.
that's why I say only Dr. Seuss makes up stories. Um, my man Jimmy D doesn't have stories, and nor do I.
I I am Sam, but please give me my green
There you
eggs
go.
and ham.
All right, Nikki. All right. Now we got Jimmy saying it. Sally Boy, yes, thank you. Antonio is doing good. Um, so if anybody's got questions, if you could get them into the box, we'll try to get as many questions answers as we can. But Jimmy knows before we get to any of that, I have to sneak in just one. I'll see if I can sneak in two, but definitely one. Maybe we could get him to talk a little bit about something. Jimbo,
Oh,
we've had
yes,
many conversations.
yes,
Um,
yes.
some more deeper and longer than others. Um, Johnny Moose is somebody that people have heard heard you speak of in the chat before. Hey,
Right,
watch it.
right.
Now they're all talking about Dr. Seuss. So Johnny Moose, Johnny, you had to add to it. Only you. So um, Johnny Moose is someone that their name has become familiar. Obviously, with you spoke on Johnny Moose before, and some different things with Johnny Moose. Good evening, Terry, Steve. Um, we spoke a little bit about the chat doesn't know. Would you be willing to share with us um, about you and Johnny Moose having a history with what I would call trying to think of a nicer word for exploiting or for working with a professional fighter or a fight. Yeah, I guess the word is exploiting. Can you share on some of that before we get to a
Well,
Q and A?
well, when I was with Johnny Moose, I used to run his all his after hour clubs. There
Right,
was three of them in Staten Island at the time. This is in the 80s. This is like 83, 84, 85. He had the Nile Room. He had Bay Street. He had two places on Bay Street, which was you get the last exit on the the Staten Island Expressway just before you go over the Verrazano Bridge. It's the last exit, Lily Pond Avenue, but the main road is Bay Street. It's a
yeah,
long road, and he wound up opening a restaurant which I helped him put together called Roberto's Fine Dining. And first, it was like a shabby bar. This guy Bobby Ferrone owned it, and Johnny Moose moved in there quickly, and he just put his long claws into it, and then it became Johnny Moose's place. So he wanted to convert it over into a nice place to eat. So we were there so many nights, and we would be there naturally. But once it got started, but to get it started, I helped him put that whole together between ordering his linens to his silverware, hiring all the waiters and stuff. It's a lot to earn a restaurant to run a restaurant, and it'll cost. It used to bring up where he would need 60 dinners per week. I think it was like 60 dinners per week to break even with expenses and to reorder, let's say, more veal or whatever. He had some great chefs there. They were really good guys. But the main guy that used to come in, which was the boxer, he was Chuck Wepner. And Chuck Wepner was the guy that fought Muhammad
big
Ali in Yankee
big
Stadium.
name.
Right. And Chuck became a good friend of mine, and we would hang out with Johnny Moose. And Chuck was a partier. This is how it was back then. And this is in the 80s. And his choice was that ever so elusive white powder.
Powder.
And everybody know that. But he wound up going away. Long story short, he wound up going away, and he was with my dad. They were in Northern State Prison in New Jersey. So when they said, "Where's the beef?" back then with that commercial, they used to say, "Where's the beef?" They weren't kidding when they said him, because he was like 6'6" and big guy, big guy. He was a good boxer, because I think in the ninth round when he fought Ali, he put Ali on the canvas. It was a quick knockdown. Ali got right up, but still. And the guy that was in the stands was Sylvester Stallone. Stallone was the one that sat there and saw this guy that had gotten a shot at the title, basically a nobody from New Jersey, who was like the New Jersey champion at the time, which really didn't mean that much. Stallone wrote the movie Rocky based on that because of Chuck Wepner. So what he did was he gave Chuck Wepner $250,000. That's the money he gave him for doing. A lot of people don't know that, but that's what happened. He paid Chuck $250,000, and that was to get the rights almost to his life. But he adapted it into a screenplay adaptation into the character Rocky, who fights Apollo Creed. But as you know, in the movie, Apollo Creed is supposed to be reminiscent of Muhammad Ali. But Chuck, when we would be in the after-hour clubs, this guy he was wild. I mean, wild. I mean, I would be with him. So at first, I would be in the room with him. He would have women like you wouldn't believe that wanted to be with him all the time. So naturally, they wanted to be with him because of his candy that he would have on his person to give away. But also, Chuck was there, and he would have girls there, and he would have me take pictures of them. Now, but I would only take a few pictures, and I said, Chuck, I can't stay here. I have to excuse myself now. And then, let me tell you something. They would put blindfolds on him. They would put a blindfold on him, the girls.
Johnny, my brother.
He would have to be able to tell who was servicing him. I'll say in a nice way, In
a nice way.
And this is what was going on with Chuck. Chuck was a maniac, man. One time we went, and then he wanted me to get this one girl she was the waitress at one of the after-hour clubs. That I was one of the three that I was running. So he went in his trunk of his car, and he says, "I tell you something, they talk like that." He said, "Let me tell you, let me go in the trunk, let me get." So he had to unscrew this flashlight, and then he took the flashlight apart, and in there was the goodies, so to speak.
Oh yeah.
But he was good friends with my dad when they went away. They were real close. So
Really?
I'm not really talking out of school because it was all documented. It was all documented in the papers because he had like a problem with the substance at the time. That was the 80s. That's how it was. It was at the height of that particular era of that nasty drug, Yeah. So, but at the time, matter of fact, he that's what he went away for. I think it was possession of that or whatever. He had so much of it, and that's what he went away for, is what I remember. But as far as a good man, as far as his character, hell of a guy. I mean, like, you can't help but love him. He was very generous, good guy. If I see him, I saw him down in Atlantic City once. This is during the 80s again, but it was like 4 years later. He was down there. It was New Year's Eve, and we were at, I think it was the Claridge or one of those hotels down there. Right, and he had, naturally, he had all everything was all complimentary because the casino hosts and the people the managers of the place, it was like a big deal to have Chuck there because it was very exciting, and it was good for business, with the publicity to have Chuck there. But he wasn't like a casino host. But when he did go there, they would roll out the red carpet for him because he was cool. Chuck was cool, and I have nothing but positive accolades to say about him. But Chuck was a good guy, and the fun we had, and because this was at the time when I directed the adult film Slit Skirts in 1983, and it was done by Evart, E-V-A-R-T, Evart on Video X Productions was the one who did all my my videotapes. So I didn't get paid. I didn't get paid on as far as how many tapes were sold. I got paid on how many were made. I got paid by that. So I only got 5%, but it was 5% of the gross. The gross was a big deal back then. So that's before taxes, or they could say, well, we have to take out this expense or whatever. So Chuck liked me immediately because that's what I was doing at the time. And when I had Johnny Moose with me, I had this guy, Richie. He was our executive producer. He got all the money together for Slit Skirts. And he had a company in the garment center. And Richie, he would have these certain, I think it was Shenardi. Shenardi was a brand of clothing that they were selling a lower line. Let's say they sold them in, let's say Kmart or whatever. It was a lower line store, but this guy it was a big business. And he got together all the people that had put up money to make the film. It cost $100,000 to make the movie, but it only took 5 days to film it because there's not too much dialogue. There's like a few, how you doing? Yeah, how you doing? Then all of a sudden that bad saxophone, you hear the saxophone, and there you go. So Johnny Moose, this guy Richie was like a beat artist. What he did was on one of my checks initially, he had to give me $10,000 just to start doing to be the director. So I used the name J.D. Marlowe instead of Jimmy Dimodica. Same initial, J.D. Marlowe I used. So anyway, the Richie has given me the last check. I think it was it was like a $5,000 installment check, and then he stopped payment on it. I was going out with a girl at the time who wound up later on being one of the mother of my only child, James. And what happened was he stops payment on the check, but I had the money coming to me. So I told Johnny Moose about it. Oh, God. Oh, you want to see a guy that can collect money with his face. Oh, my God. So we go in his office, and he's sitting there. Richie is sitting there at his desk. Like, let's say I'm facing you this way. Well, Johnny sat on the left side of his desk, but facing the other way, like looking towards the back of me, right? And he's talking to him. He says, what the guy that was Richie's assistant, he was an elderly Jewish guy, and he had glasses with a silver chain around his neck, and the glasses, they just hanged, like very relaxed on his chest, right? So when he saw Johnny Moose's face with that kisser, when he saw him come in, he's like this, like, oh, he's like this. So Richie says, no, that's okay. He says, no, he's going to talk. He was like this. In other words, like, are you sure you're going to be okay? That kind of look. He shut the door. Soon as the door shut, Johnny Moose says, so Richie starts copping a plea. He says, oh, let me tell you something. He goes, hold it. Shut your mother effing mouth first before I crack you in the face with this cocksucking ashtray. That's number one. Number two, you don't take a shot at this kid. This kid is around friends. You understand? He goes, and I want to see a copy of the kid's contract. So what you're going to do now is you're going to go downstairs. You're going to get him the $10,000. This way you're all square with the kid. And by the way, so he gets up at him. He goes, yes, sir. He's saying, yes, sir. This is how Johnny Moose can scare the life out of somebody with that look he has. Like, again, 2 pieces of tripe for cheeks, flat nose, tattoos on his knuckles, a killer on the inside of his forearm, and the notches of how many. Oh, God. So when the guy leaves to say, all right, so you're going to go downstairs. So you understand, Richie, Dick, right? You're going to go downstairs, Dick, and get that money. And so then when the guy goes, okay, I'll be right back, because he knew there was a bank downstairs. So he automatically assumed that the money was there because the building was there and the convenience of the bank, they would use that bank downstairs. So he says, as Richie says, yeah, I'm going to go get the money. Just before he left, Johnny Moose says to him, oh, and Dick, bring me back a coffee, black, sweet and low, please. He goes, yes. He brings back the $5,000 in a paper bag and a coffee for Johnny Moose. So now Johnny Moose, they give me the money. Richie gives me the money. Johnny Moose is talking. So how you doing here, Rich, Dick? You doing good here? He goes, oh, yes, doing fine. So now Richie wants to walk him to the elevator because our business concluded. So as we get in the elevator, right, Johnny Moose is like where I am, standing looking out this way. And so Richie's on the outside of the door as the doors are closing. So he says, well, come back again, John. He goes, we'll go out to lunch sometime. He goes, yeah. He goes, so again, you're doing good there. He goes, yeah, I'm doing real great. All that stuff. When the doors close like this, he's talking to me. He's just looking straight forward, Johnny Moose. And he goes, Jimmy, that was a bad move. Telling Johnny Moose he's doing good. A very bad move. Because now he's going to shake him down to death. Oh, man. These are my friends. These are my friends.
Yeah. Well, hey, it is what it is. I thank you for sharing that. I know the chat is grateful, but chat, Sal Salerno, my brother-in-law, is dying laughing. Great story, Jimmy. Great. this is the part, guys, we're going to be doing a little different. I put it up. Anybody has a question for Jimmy? I already have 2 in the bank. We'll try to get to as many as we can. Anybody has any question, Dex, whoever, Mr. Johnny Farinacci, anybody has a question, please put it in the box so we can get it to Mr. Dimodica so he can go about his dinner plans as normal. We'll start off with this one. This one comes from one of our very own. Everybody that's in here is one of our very own. He's here often. Mr. Matt, also known as Mad Dog. He's also, I copped out last week. He showed up at my house last Saturday. I overslept and we never went for breakfast. So I owe him, Matt. So the first question is yours. Jimmy, did you ever have any friends in horse racing in New Jersey? Flats or harness? Maddie, thank you.
Oh, okay, Maddie. Yes, I did, and it was my cousin. His nickname was Pitt, like a pit for an olive. That's his nickname, Pitt Giangrandi. He had racehorses for years, but in the summer of 1982, he wound up acquiring a very good horse, and Jim Doherty was his jockey. This was a harness race. It was a harness horse, from the Meadowlands, and the name of the horse was called Pit Boy. That was named. It was named by Pitt, by his daughter Angela, who wound up passing away at a very young age. She had Cooley's. They call it Cooley's anemia, which afflicts Italian, Greeks. It's in the blood, it's like a poisonous thing for the blood. The poor Angela died young, but she named the horse. And that summer, 1982, was called the New Jersey Classic in harness racing for New Jersey. And at that time, there was these real good horses that was called No Nukes and Mackenzie Almahurst that were real big and really like strong, real good contenders. And Pit Boy really wasn't picked to win. But that particular night, Pit Boy, of course, when it was almost as if Angela was wishing that horse over the finish line from the place that were from heaven,
Gotcha, yeah.
And that was my cousin. And that night he won. Again, he was like the best horse in New Jersey, which he won, and it was $259,000 that he won. Then after that, I think they did one more race. I think Pit Boy came in second or whatever. But for that, it was my cousin Pitt. It was because he was an operator engineer for years in local 825. He was a sergeant of arms in their very powerful position, and but a hell of an income that he had, and it was all legit too. But his business was in the horses, and that was my cousin. And again, we were all there, but my father wasn't there because my father was away at the time. But it was my mom and I was there with my cousins and everything, and it was really nice to see cousin Pitt win.
All right,
so
Jimmy.
That was it.
That was awesome, Maddie. I hope Jimmy not only answered your question, gave you a little bit more than what you've asked for, which I know he has. And I know you're grateful for. I just want to add something to that, Jimmy. Not from knowledge or anything about horses. Just Maddie. What I know about Maddie, he's a friend personally, and Maddie grew up in the horse game. His dad and whatnot. So he knows a lot about the horse game, and for whatever reason, I'm surprised that was a question, but you happen to have an answer for him, which is awesome. I got some questions rolling in. Here we go. In no particular order, I'm going to get to them. This happens to be from one of the newest members of the family, but he will be a guest on our show Monday night before our boxing, a former flyweight fighter himself, Mr. John Farinacci, who is going to ask you, Jimmy, and this is based off of your opinion, What is the best boxing fight you have ever seen live? I'm sure John is gathering you've been to some fights live. What's one of the best boxing fights you've ever seen live that you
Well,
can
I
recall?
was at the time I was young, and my father was close with. He was, I think it was light. He was light heavy, I believe. Frankie DiPaula, his name was, and he fought Bob Foster for the light heavyweight championship. Even though Frankie lost that quick, it was one of the most memorable fights. But also, when I was young, I went to the fight of the century, which was in Madison Square Garden. And that's how I
Frazier
knew that
Ali?
that night. Frazier Ali, number one. I was 13, and it was one hell of a night, man. Let me tell you something. To go there, and at the time, I was with my dad's best friend who brought me there at the time. They used to call him Puggy. He was a good guy, and he's no longer here now. But um,
R.I.P.
the fight of
Puggy.
the century was really something to see because everybody was there. I mean, every celebrity. Frank Sinatra kept getting in
Movie
my
went
way
to see
because
a
he was
movie.
taking pictures for Life magazine. He was taking pictures, so he was just getting in everybody's way, thinking who the hell he was. But he figures, oh, I'm a kid, you know. But that's one of the most impressive fights that I saw, and when I, in the live. Oh, and I also saw George Foreman fight when he was up and coming before he became champ. Naturally, he fought this guy named Boone Kirkman on the card one night, and he went out. The first thing he did, he went out. He took his both hands and went like this and just pushed him and knocked him to the ground, and he got up right away. But he said, I did. He told later on in the press conference, he says, I did that to establish myself, he
Yeah,
said.
he established
But,
himself.
but he was like, he was undefeated, George Foreman. He was a big guy, strong too.
All right.
It's very, fight game is very impressive. But
I
thank
appreciate
you
that.
for asking for the question. Thank you.
John, awesome question. And our chat group is going to get to know you on Monday night, John. I hope you appreciate the answer. I know Jimmy appreciates the question. This next question comes from Nick, and then Roy, you're up next. Nick wants to know, Jimmy, did we call him Juicy? Did Dad ever box? Did your father ever box? Would you like to share any of that?
Of course, my father in the early 50s was a welterweight, and he was New York and New Jersey at around almost like the same time, was a Golden Glove champion. He turned professional, and then before that, though, also he was national AAU champion of being a welterweight at the time, was the Amateur Athletic League champion. Willie Ketchum was a big promoter was a big fight manager at the time. He had a couple of champs. He wanted to train my father. I said, listen, I'll just give you money. You don't do nothing. I'll pay you. I'll pay you $200 a week. That was big money then. I'll pay you $200 a week for me to train you. And my father didn't have the mindset then. He said, as he was working out, he says, Willie, I feel a little sluggish. He goes, all right, we'll take 2 days off. 2 days, and then 2 days later, he's in Chillicothe, Ohio. He gets locked up on a score. I mean, like, but my dad was very good with his hands, very good. He was undefeated as a professional, as a welterweight, and then he all of a sudden again he got in trouble, and he had to go away, and he wound up losing his career by having bouts of trouble of run-ins with the law. I said, but otherwise, he was a good fighter. My dad was very good. He was very good. I got to show you the articles, because I had it in a scrapbook of all because his brother had put them all together, and you see of all the knockouts he had and everything. But he was so good. He missed his calling. He should have. That's what he should. Oh, he was also in Ring Magazine. I don't know what year it was, but he was Fighter of the Month in Ring Magazine as a welterweight. I'm not sure if it was 52 or 54. I don't know which month it was, but I was trying. I got a couple of back issues, but there wasn't the right one. But he definitely was Fighter of the Month at that time in Ring Magazine as a welterweight. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, my brother. Thank you, Nick, for the question. Jimmy, thank you for the answer. Would you like to take a sip of water, sir, so you could get your vocals right?
Well, I saw a question. They asked me a question about Stallone, about his
Right.
height.
It was actually the question was about that we should show Dice Clay what his something about it was a joke about Dice Clay about his making a movie with Frank Stallone, Sly's brother, and I guess he said you'll piss your pants. It's pretty funny. So that was that, and we might get to that, but that's not really a question. It was more like a statement.
No,
But
because
here,
I've been in. I used to live at Burt Young's house. Burt Young was Paulie in Rocky.
great. Please share that.
Yeah, I would always stay at his house in Beverly Hills. First, he lived at 321 North Palm Drive in Beverly Hills. Then he moved at 708 Roxbury Drive. Then it became 1013. He had a mansion there. But every time I would stay with him, because I did parts on Beretta, Kojak, and stuff like that, he would bring me around at the time. This is before I got into more crime, because crime paid more than acting did.
Crime paid, right?
But Stallone, I was with him many times at Universal City. We would be in the commissary, Universal Commissary in Eaton, and I'm with Burt Young, and Sly was there. Sly isn't a tall guy. He's nice and built, but he's only like 5'7", 5'8", somewhere around there. He's not the tallest. I went out to Beverly Hills to see his manager, Herb Nanas. It was Nanas. Herb Nanas was his manager for years. And Herb Nanas used to be with William Morris, and he dropped William Morris just to handle Stallone and Ray Sharkey at the time. Those were the only two guys that he had, was Stallone and Ray Sharkey. And I wanted him to do me. And so I sent a dozen roses to his secretary. Her name was Temmie. I never forgot her name. Temme, Temmie. And I sent her a dozen roses. And it was I think it was 208 Rodeo Drive. I had to go to his office, and I flew out to see him. And he says to me, he says, "Kid, you got to lose that South Philly look with those you got to grow your sideburns." That's why Stallone always has sideburns when you see him in movies. Yeah, because Herb Nanas was always big on that.
That's great, man. Thank you, Jim.
But again, Burt Young was my dear friend. I would always stay at his house. And that's how I know the Stallone, he wasn't a tall guy in stature. He wasn't very tall.
And, I want to share something about the Burt Young, and we've never discussed this at all. I totally can understand how you and Burt Young were friends, because I can tell you this. Before I knew you, before we even spoke, before we understood the paths and the life, Burt Young used to have a piece of a bowling alley in Queens, New York called Bridge Lanes. It was a bowling alley in Whitestone, Queens. But not only that, Burt Young, I saw him 2 or 3 times at private events, we'll say, that there were a lot of guys in the life. And I'm not saying Burt was around them, but he knew them. You know what I mean?
No, but
so he was
he
not
passed
around
away.
guy is what I'm saying. So
he passed away. He passed away, so I can tell you now.
Yeah.
He was around the Columbos, at that time. He was around because Allie Boy Persico is the one. Carmine Persico's son is the one that introduced me to him and says, "Listen, when you're doing that acting, go out. You're going to meet Burt Young. You stay with him." Burt Young is the one that picked me up on the strength of what Junior, Allie Boy's father is the one that set all that up. So he was always always in the fold when he was a kid, and he made a ton of money with some other things that were a little wild at the time. But Larry knows. Matter of fact, Larry Rolla knows him real good because his real name is Dickie Richard Morea, Morea. That's his last name. Morea, you say in Italian. When they say Morea. So instead of Rich, they say Dickie Morea. That's what you say. But he's my friend, and he was my friend for years and years. When I wrote, that's when you see the script with one of the pictures with
Yeah, I'm
Tony
gonna put that up
Imperial.
eventually. Yep.
Right, there was a picture because I wrote the movie about Tony Imperial's life,
Yep.
and Burt Young wanted to play his part so bad. That's when he took us to Sparks Restaurant,
Yep.
and he took us there, and he said, "No, that senator was a great man. He's real good to me. He would always call me skinny. I don't know why he called me skinny. I wasn't skinny, but he always called me that.
That's
And he
great.
only has one daughter. Her name is Annie, and he lost his first son. The mother, I think the mother had some kind of problem. His first son died as a baby, and the wife killed herself. I can say that only now because he's gone, you know?
Yeah, John. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Well, thank you
but it was sad. But Bert, but when I say Richie, because I went to Billy Hahn's one night in New York to eat on 56th and 3rd Avenue. It was a Chinese place. A lot of guys go there. So it was raining, so we had to run to get underneath the vestibule of the place. And who's standing there? Burt Young. So I'm yelling, go, "Hey, Richie." So he looks, he's, "Oh, Jesus Christ." He goes, "How's your father? How's your father?" And so first thing he said, "How's your father?"
That sounds just like him.
Yeah.
That sounds just like him.
He has a brother, Bob, looks like him so much, too.
Really? Yeah, I just thought I'd share that with you because, it just so happened that, what I saw as a youngster and then later in life at a couple of events that I was at, and he was there, and it just goes to what you're talking about. I didn't know, though, he was around the other,
No, he was around. He was around then.
Yeah,
when he did the movie, Uncle Joe Shannon, back in the late 70s, early 80s, it's about a trumpet player that he played a trumpet player who has a bad thing where his house burns down and he loses his wife and he starts going on Skid Row. But he was a famous trumpet player. When he had to go into the recording studio to actually, he learned how to play the trumpet, Burt, and he was good at it. And at the time, I'm saying the guy's name now because he passed away. I was in jail with him, though. Was Andrew Russo. Andrew was the underboss next to Carmine Persico. So, but Andrew died also. Died a few years back. But Andrew was at the recording studio for Burt, sent there by Junior. Junior sent him there. But I tell you, it's a small world once you're inside looking out. Yeah, it's a small world,
but I wouldn't want to paint it. My grandfather used to say that. I got a question for you, Jimmy. First of all, thank you for dropping these nuggets, man. Roy from Ireland, all the way from Ireland, has this question for you, and this is going to be a tough one, but we're going to ask it. Roy's great people. I've spoke to him personally on many occasions from the other side across the pond. Hey guys, how you all doing? Ask Jimmy, does he remember a guy called Joe Doherty? He's a friend of a friend, and he and a few others are very grateful for how the Italians helped them out in the United States, in our country. So I know it's a very broad statement, but he's very grateful of the boys helping his friend out. And he doesn't get into who, what, where. He just mentions the gentleman name. Maybe, he's just showing his respect and wanted you to know that his friend was helped.
That name, it only rings a bell with a guy that was close with the people over there on the other side near Ireland with Sinn Féin.
Okay.
I know you're not familiar with that, but I was familiar. Sinn Féin was a radical group that was going against the motherland of England, and there would be bombings and stuff like that. And
crazy shit.
I don't know if it's the same. I don't know if it's the same guy, but it could be, maybe not. But again, once you're on the inside, yes, you know a lot of people, but yet there's some people that slip through the cracks. And personally, I don't know the guy. No, I don't know the guy personally.
No.
But I remember I heard a couple of stories here and there, about that. Okay. About with moving of weapons and stuff like that. But then this is a long time ago.
Roy is answering right now. Yes, Craig and Jimmy, that is him you are speaking about.
Okay.
I'll tell
And
you,
I got
boy.
the right guy.
Yeah, imagine. But this goes to show people, honestly, you could come from a neighborhood. Honestly, you could come from Queens. I'll use Queens, and not know of somebody 5 blocks away is with this crew or that crew, and never meet the guy. And now we're talking about something from another. And, you've had to say no how many times? No, I never heard of him. Doesn't ring a bell. And here we are. We're talking about somebody from another country coming here, and it rang a bell, and it happened to be the same guy. So you
Right.
just never know. You just never know. It just
Right. Well,
it's
again,
cool.
my only brush with people that
Mhm.
only had good stock in them, you know.
I know what you
And
mean. Absolutely,
Joe
and words are
Doherty was
cool.
one of them guys that had good stock. You
You
know,
got it.
that's what I remember.
Absolutely. Timmy Irish is saying Joe spent 10 years in MCC without being charged of a crime or deportation. Thank you, Timmy,
Right.
for
It
sharing
goes to
that.
show you how powerful he was. That
Wow.
goes to show you how
That tell you
scared they
something.
were.
Yeah, that told me
The
something right there.
government, the government, the government shook around guys like that.
Oh man. That's a nice nugget. Thank you. You know, I always hated. Let me see. I can't see if I missed. Oh, great! I saw this. This is from Terry. Terry is always here, especially Jimbo when you're here. Thank you, Terry. I'm glad I saw it. You would have never forgave me. Jimmy, did you know Bobby Guarino? He owned the Go-Go Bar on Bloomfield Avenue in Newark.
Of course, it's Bobby
Oh,
Caboose.
Bobby
Bobby
Caboose.
Caboose.
Can we
Caboose.
is
He first had the Caboose Diner on Bloomfield Avenue, Bloomfield Center. Then he opened up the Caboose. It was the Go-Go Bar. But Bobby was. Let me tell you something about Bobby. He got his first machine gun from me. I was only like 19 years old. My mother's brother, he died now, so I could say it. He had a carbine machine gun, and we didn't know really who to get it from. So I went to Bobby. I says, Bobby, you want to get
not
this? Because a guy named Jamo Calabrese, Jamo, they say, hey, Jamo Calabrese, who died, was a skipper in the area. And that was his uncle, Bobby Caboose's uncle. So that's how I knew at the time. I'm 19 years old, but he got this first machine gun for me, which was a carbine. Yeah, Bobby Caboose. Yeah, Bobby Green. Sure, Bobby's
Terry
my dear
Terry
friend.
Terry said
Oh, and another thing, I was 19. I brought him to the Taj Mahal in New York City. It was a real high line, like red light district place for women and stuff. So I brought him there, but I was only a kid, so I didn't have any money. So I had to wait for him in the front until he finished his business, and then he went. But Bobby was my friend. Yes.
Hey, Baywatcher, I saw your name. Bay, you got anything you want to ask? If you do, throw it in there. Anybody else? Terry says that's him, laughing out loud. Can't believe it. She loved him. He must have been a liked guy. As well. We love you, pal. You know that. I don't want to be selfish here, so I'm not going to ask anything I could ask you at any time, and it has actually nothing to do with the life or related to that. Actually, there is something I want to ask you, and then I know I can hear the hunger pains. If there's something somebody wants to throw into the box, throw it in now. Nah, I don't. Baywatcher, you know how to phrase things. We get around that. But anyway, this it's really not a question, Jimmy. It's something you said to me, and you brought up the name again. That's the only reason why I'm going to say it. The company's name was Wilson or something, but you had told me it was a way how you guys used to hustle the best restaurants and get to eat for free. It was one of the greatest games ever played, and I was thinking automatically when you told me the story a little bit. How did I come up with this shit? This was wow! What a game this was. and I don't know how you did it, but you brought up the company. I forget the name, and you would
No,
call ahead 2 weeks ahead or something.
yeah, it was William. I made up the state. I got
William and Morris.
stationery name. Instead of William Morris, I used
How did you
W.B.
do it?
Morris and Associates.
Do you mind?
And what I would do, I said, man, I love going to restaurants. How can I go to restaurants without paying anymore? I said, let me figure. I said, I got it. I said, so I would get a list of restaurants, let's say the Jersey area, but the more of a high line kind of restaurants, nice, good restaurants. So I would send out a letter to them. It says, in preparation for your possible 4-star rating in New Jersey Magazine and New York Times, I said, one of our representatives will be contacting you when he's in the area. This way you can put your, quote, best foot forward and make sure that you can give them all instead of just coming there unannounced, and it could be a bad night where you didn't get the proper meat or the proper delicacy, let's say. So I would go. Now, once I send them the letter, they have this in the back of their mind. So they're waiting to get that call that they were chosen. They want to get the prestige of being there. This is how you get them, So, so I would call up and I say, yes, I'm from W.B. Morris and Associates. My name is James, and I'm going to be in the area. I says, I don't want to come on a tune-up. There's too much fanfare and too much happening where I don't want to. I just want to blend in. I really don't want to, be in the mix or bother anybody too much. Oh no, you're not a bother. Matter of fact, come Thursday night or whatever. So I would go on the particular night. Then in the back there'd be a reserve on the table. They would have bottles of wine, red and white, whichever one they chilled the red one. I mean the white one, just whatever one I particular fancy. And so I would sit there and I would eat. I would bring it. Sometimes I'd bring a date. Sometimes I would just go alone or whatever. And at the end of the night, I said, now I have to sit with the chef. I have to ask him how he prepares his meat. What kind of thing does he do? Any kind of marination? Does he do this? And I would actually have to spend about 20 minutes. But it didn't matter because at the end of the thing, the payoff was zero. Like Johnny Moose would say, oh, this much here. This is how much I pay. This much here, kid. So that's what happened. So I would go there and spend time. It only happened one time where the guy still gave me a bill.
He gave you a bill?
Boy. Yeah, he gave me a bill. Dave, I got to call it.
Yeah,
I was getting a call. Yes, the guy gave me a bill because his uncles were wise guys with another crew. They were Genovese guys, and that's what happened. And then all of a sudden, they just said to me, well, where's the money? So a lot of times I would have the money just in case if a snag like that would happen. But that's what happened.
All right, listen, I know it's late. I got 2 quick ones for you, and we thank you for everything. Cinnamon Girl, I hope, I believe you said thank you, Jimmy, for answering that Sly Stallone question. I hope you got it off properly. I hope I didn't miss it. I hope Jimmy did catch it. Jimmy, there's 2 questions I got for you. They shouldn't be long. One question is, how about Mr. Dimodica? Were you ever worried about being interviewed by the police when you were in those mini shootouts years back in Staten Island with Johnny Moose and all of those crazy shits would happen when you were involved in those shootouts? Did that even cross your mind? I probably could answer for you, but go ahead and answer. That's your question.
If it did happen, they're gonna get 0 from me. They're gonna say nothing, and I'm going to say, no, you're wrong. Here's why, and I would just keep that facade going. You just know what to say, what not to say. Very minimal. You don't give them anything more that they can use or they can expound upon. It's just using common sense, basically,
All right, and this is the last question of the evening. I'm going to give you this one. Chris Gorky, you got a question. What is it? All right, Chris, I'm going to give it to you. Jimmy, two quick ones. You make them quick answers if you like. First question is: did you ever meet Jimmy Knapp, or did you ever know Jimmy Knapp? Hear of Jimmy Knapp?
No, there's a few Naps, Blackie Napoli, this one, but Jimmy Knapp, no, I didn't do. I have no dealings with him. No.
Okay, but no, because they're saying he was a big name, but even way before my time, we heard the name, but you didn't know him. Okay, and the last one is from Mr. Chris Gorky. Jimmy, have you ever hear or know of Big Bill D'Elia from the 80s and 90s from Pennsylvania? Did you ever deal with any guys from PA, upstate, way up PA? Bill D'Elia, Big Bill D'Elia.
The only D'Elia we dealt with was Michael Jackson's. He was Michael Jackson's manager at the time. I don't know if he was related to this Bill D'Elia, but D'Elia, that name, I hope I have it right, but I remember that D'Elia being somewhat, because we were trying to get a couple of artists. We had.
He's saying that's him. That's him.
Yeah, because what happened was that Norby Walters was a guy that used to represent Eric B. and Rakim.
Yeah.
When they had that song called "Paid in Full."
Yeah.
And through Norby Walters, they don't even realize it, but they paid. They actually bought my mom and dad's first condo. They don't even know it because Norby Walters was around us.
Jimmy, I just want to say we had a great night. You answered so many questions. I thank you. I love you. You know that.
Love you more, Craig. You know that.
Yeah, Chad is grateful. I speak on behalf of them because if they had a mic, they'd all be saying it right now. Great questions, awesome answers. I'm glad you were able to answer a lot of these questions and actually knew a lot of that, because it's easy, no matter how big and wide net yours was, it's possible you just don't know everybody. But tonight was a successful night as far as you happen to know people from other countries, and just
when you're, in all honesty, when you're not a BSer, you know what I mean, you're the real deal.
Yeah.
You don't, people, this is what it's all about. It's the spider web connection thing. This one leads to this, and that leads to that, and this guy leads to this guy. That's how it works. You got to have good sharpness. You got to have total recall, because if you don't, you may step on the toes of one guy one night. You can cause an argument and not remembering, or use your head to know, wait a minute. Like when you say that guy D'Elia, you got to know, like, wait a minute, wait, hold on, that could be so and so. So therefore, let me put myself in a holding pattern before I wind up, blowing my top or something. That I'm just giving you an example of always knowing how to act and how to act accordingly in this life. That's what I do well.
Yeah, very well. Before I let you go, your better half says that we should probably do another Q&A next week. We'll talk about it during the week. Whatever you work out at home, you let me know.
Whatever. No. I make final decisions. Don't worry.
Whoa, I like that.
But whatever you want, Craig. You're the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that's too sweet to be sour, and you got more moves than a bowl of Jello.
Whoa, I love it. Damn, that can't be. What is it? Damn, that can't be jam because Jello don't. No, damn, that can't be Jello because jam don't shake like that.
Shake like that.
Jimmy, I love you. Have a great weekend. Have a great night. Chad, if you want, stick around. We shoot the breeze. Jimmy, always a pleasure, my brother.
Love you, Craig. Take care.
Love you, brother. Love you more. Be well. Good night, Barbara. Guys, I hope you all enjoyed tonight's show, whatever, show, episode, whatever we call it. I tell you, I enjoyed the question and answer, the Q&A. Changed it up a little bit. I thought the chat enjoyed it. Maybe. Yeah, we're seeing that. We're hearing that. Dex, I see you still in the house. I saw earlier, Dex, you heading down south, my brother. Just be safe. Terry, thank you. Everybody plays a part in this. It's true. I say it. He ain't salad. Man of the hour, absolutely, no doubt about it. Everybody plays a part in this. Jimmy don't come on. If I don't bring him on, I have nobody. Jimmy don't. If you guys aren't here, there's no need for Jimmy to come on. We all play our role in this. So we're all one. We are all one. I'll repeat it till I'm blue in the face. We're all one. We all play a part in it. It's huge. It's important that you guys know it. Without the questions, the show isn't what it is tonight. And I think we had an awesome show. Awesome show. I had fun doing it this way. It was a little bit different. I enjoyed it. I know Jimmy enjoyed it. I believe you guys enjoyed it. Johnny, I'm looking for John. I'm going to call you tomorrow. I want to let everybody know Monday night, I said we're going to have an interview with John Farinacci, who fought in the flyweight division, and he'll be part of our boxing night. On Monday night, we'll do a little interview and conversation. Not an interview. We'll have a conversation with a friend, and that's John. And then we're going to get into one of John's fights, and we're going to show that Monday night. Benny, it's good to see you. Catch the replay. We'll talk, Ben, like we always do. John, I told you I'll give you a call tomorrow. Baywatcher, I was going to ask that RD question. I wasn't afraid to ask it. We'll get it the next time. We'll ask that. Nothing. We ask it. Shit. 100 people have asked that question on 1,000. We ask anything. You asked it the right way. I hope. Don't hold nothing back. Next week we'll do a Q&A again. If that's what you guys want to do, you'll let me know, girls. And that's what we'll do. Otherwise, Roy, I know it's late, man. Go get some rest, my brother. You must be shot. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate everybody for coming in. I want to just tell everybody I love you guys. Nick, Cinnamon Girl, Dex, Benny, John, Baywatcher, Davey T, Steve, Matty Boy, Gianni, Roy, Dana, Chris Gorky. Thank you so much. Barbara, Roy again. I don't want to, I hate missing anybody. Sally Boy, Terry. If I miss Steve Marinello, Stevie came in earlier. He had to bounce. Got to do what he's got to do. Timmy Irish, always my brother. And we keep it rolling. OG Ruby Almighty, nothing but love. You guys have a great night. Be well. Great weekend. We got a football show Sunday. For whoever's interested in the draft stuff. And then Monday night we go live with boxing and Dex. Let me know about Tulsa King. I happen to like that show too. Steve, thank you. And so Sunday's football live, 4:00 in the afternoon. We're going to do a draft show with live trades for whoever's into the football. No more earthquakes, thank God. Everybody's good. Dana, have a good night. Everybody have a good night. Be safe. Be sound. Nick, I'll call you a little bit. Timmy Irish, Dex, love you guys. Cinnamon, love yous. Be safe. Sunday, Monday, we on.